Welcome to the Rabbi Sidney H. and Jane Brooks annual lectureship. It's a privilege to be part of this lectureship. Religious Studies at the University of Nebraska has sponsored this lecture for over 20 years. And we are particularly delighted today to have with us Rabbi Aryeh Azriel, who served as the rabbi of Temple Israel from 1988 to 2016. So as Rabbi Brooks' successor, and as someone who can tell us about the development of the Tri-Faith Initiative, we're hoping to get some insights into his perspective on the development of Temple Israel, of Tri-Faith Initiative, and the theme of our conference this year, which is religious renewal in times of crisis. With that, I would like to introduce Rabbi Aryeh Azriel, a friend, a colleague for now over 20 years, and would like to maybe open up the discussion around the question of what it was like to grow up in Israel when you were a kid.
Life was so simple. It was, of course, I had a few challenges very early in my life. There was a polio epidemic, and so that affected my growing up. And I think in the long range, it affected also what I chose to do for my life, in my life, which is to become a rabbi. I grew up in a family of Bulgarian refugees that came to the state of Israel because they wanted to escape the Soviet regime. And so there was no religion that attracted them to the state of Israel. They came as a shelter, as a way of surviving away from communism. My parents slowly were influenced by my desire to learn more Bible and more about religion and religious expressions. And so I went to elementary school, high school, Tel Aviv University, and life for me was basically being involved from early stage in all kind of demonstrations and speaking engagements in those demonstrations. At that time, Labour Party was in control and very far away from where the country is going at this moment. Maybe I can elaborate on this later. I also want to mention the beautiful legacy that both Rabbi Brooks and Jane Brooks left at Temple Israel. The door was open there to succeed and to find my voice in this congregation. And it was fun, it was hard. I brought all kind of issues on the agenda of the discussion for the temple. And some of them went okay, and some of them were a disaster. But, you know, a rabbi that doesn't create some chaos and antagonism does not worth his slot.
Well, can you take us back a step or two to what prompted you to be interested in becoming a rabbi? What did you have a sense of vocation? Of what led you in that direction?
What helped me decide what I want to do with the rest of my life was coming here in 1973 to work as a counselor in a summer camp that belonged to the Reform movement, to the liberal movement. I was not exposed as much to that side of Judaism in Israel. In Israel, it was a movement in the beginning. And so it took a summer camp experience doing Shabbats and working with children and working with rabbis that were part of the movement to show me Judaism with a different flavor. The flavor at my time in Israel was basically Orthodox Judaism, a lot more kind than what I have been reading about and being exposed later. And so I came to America to actually, like all Israelis that come to America, I came to America to go to Disneyland. And so the ticket was bought by working in a summer camp. And I saw Disneyland. It was wonderful, sweet. I loved what the practices of liberal Judaism taught me. I like the equality between men and women in the rabbinate. I love the celebration of Shabbat. Those are all kind of things that I have not experienced in my childhood. I studied Bible. I loved the Bible teaching, but that was all my contact with religion through the university, of course. I had wonderful teachers. I remember them all because they were all great thinkers and opened for me the big scroll of the Bible, and I was just infatuated by that.
Do you mean teachers back in Tel Aviv or teachers?
Teachers in Tel Aviv.
Yeah.
But then putting them with the Reform rabbis in America, especially in the Chicago area, that camp serves especially people from Chicago, was amazing. This kind of a clash with what I remembered about Orthodox Judaism and what I experienced here as part of the liberal movement created a wonderful agenda for me. So that's really what drove me to make a decision about what I want to do with the rest of my life.
Cool. Can you name some of the teachers, some of the rabbis that influenced you early on?
Yeah, of course. The teachers were Professor Licht in Tel Aviv University that taught me about the Dead Sea Scrolls. Professor Grintz, a Bible scholar. Nechama Leibovich, who is well known in biblical criticism and development of lessons. And then here in camp, I met Rabbi Bronstein, Rabbi Feinberg, Rabbi Hillel Gemeran. Those were all rabbis that influenced my understanding of liberal Judaism.
And how did you go from, you came to America, went to a summer camp. You wanted to go to Disneyland, but the price was you had to go to summer camp.
Of course.
So you received this call, this sense of vocation to serve as a rabbi. Say a little bit about your studies, your preparation. Was it in Cincinnati?
In Cincinnati, because of my credentials from Tel Aviv University, I was able to finish school in 3 years. I didn't have to go to Israel. My Hebrew was good. And after the summer was over, I continued working, making a living from teaching in different synagogues in the Chicago, Illinois area. And I learned a lot from entering those kind of synagogues and working with their youth and working with adults. I love youth work. I still think of myself as a young guy. And so slowly, year after year, the decision became clearer to me what I want to do. Yeah. And then I applied to the rabbinical school in Cincinnati and got my ordination in 1983. and went to work as an assistant rabbi. My first place was Baltimore, Maryland.
Okay.
And when I was done in Baltimore after 5 years, suddenly an opening came about in Omaha, Nebraska. So I told my parents that I'm moving to Omaha, Nebraska, and I told them to open an atlas book. My father loved geography. And he said, okay, it's 3 fingers away from Chicago. It's easy, easy, we'll come see you. And they came a few times to watch me from the pulpit, which was, it took a lot of nerves to be able to stand in front of my mother. She's crying and I'm talking, preaching. But we did it okay.
And when you arrived at Temple Israel, did you have an idea of who Rabbi Brooks was? Did you have the opportunity to actually meet him?
Oh yeah, of course.
Okay.
He was an emeritus rabbi when I came.
Okay.
And he had an office at the temple.
Okay.
And I used to go there and talk to him about the temple, the character, the people, also who to raise money from. Those were important questions.
Yeah.
And I also followed him in different funerals that he did and weddings. Just wanted to learn more and more about how to do it on my own.
So in some ways, he served as a mentor
For a short time, yeah.
the young Rabbi Aryeh Azriel.
Yeah. I had the experience of being assistant rabbi, but to see first-class rabbi presents himself, both him and his wife were so generous to me.
When you met him, what did you learn about his values, his priorities?
Social justice was something very important for him. Many of his sermons at that time were about social justice, which definitely is part of the ingredient for Reform Judaism to this day. Before we teach Talmud, we learn how to protest something that we don't like. And so I like that piece of liberal Judaism, being able to join different arenas and different calls to try to fight for equality, to try to move the way we look at each other as human beings with potential. And I love that piece. I think I was always fascinated with one of the most important verses in Genesis, which is about how we were created equally, all of us. And that served me well in my rabbinate.
Now, when you began in 1988, I'm guessing you didn't imagine what would happen by the end of your rabbinate in 2016, the development of the Tri-Faith Initiative. But somewhere the roots of the Tri-Faith Initiative lie in your own ministry, in the ministry of Rabbi Brooks. How do you see that?
I see it as part of my life while I was in Israel. The topic of Arabs, Palestinians, was something that from young age bothered me and was like a grain that continued working inside of me. For example, I only know by stories of my father. When they came to Israel, there was no buildings. Israel was pretty much not built, and some of the Holocaust survivors that came to Israel took shovels and hammers and started building the country. We were invited to the city of Tzfat, up in the Galilee, and to settle in. And where do we settle? We settle in houses that were left by Palestinians that ended up in camps of refugees around Israel and outside of Israel. And my father told me a story later in life about entering that Arab village next to Tzfat and settling in a house where the dishes were in the stove. People that ran out suddenly from Tzfat because the war was close to them. And I never forgot that. And it bothered me that that's how my parents settled in the city of Tzfat. And it stays with me. In addition to going many times to funerals of friends, this is why we don't have reunions in Israel. No one wants to go to a reunion where half of the class is gone. So their names are printed outside of the school. And so from the beginning of being in Omaha and being a senior rabbi, it allows you to meet people and to talk to people. And one day, September 11 came. I don't know if you remember what happened on that day.
I've heard tell.
Yeah. On that day, few people from Temple, including me, made some phone calls because we didn't know how to react to this upheaval. So we decided to actually get a group of people to defend the mosque. I already had a relationship with the imam at the mosque, and we went there, about 45 people, and surrounded the mosque to protect the mosque from what ensued, which is revenge. Let's throw things at the mosque. We got there, and then we went during the afternoon on September 11. We established a circle of prayer, and we prayed in Hebrew, Arabic, and there were people that were Christians. That created the beginning of the initiative, I think, for the Tri-Faith campus.
And that began on September the 11th,
September 11th.
2001.
Yeah, yes.
On that very day,
Something.
you and members of Temple Israel
And some other people that
and other
came.
folks came and gathered. Is this the mosque at 73rd and Pinckney?
Yes.
The
Yes.
ICO?
Yeah.
Okay.
And as a result of this, and the result of other conversations that I had through the years, we start talking. We try to, we also at that time looked at some space for building the new temple, which is now part of the Tri-Faith campus. And those conversations led a person like Bob Freeman and some other people to join this idea of, while we are building our building, why wouldn't we invite some other religious groups to join this, so we can create a religious entity, physical entity in the city of Omaha. And I think we succeeded in creating something that still needs a lot of work. We have so many other ways of getting together and working on similar issues. There's no reason why, for example, social justice just need to be motivated by Temple Israel. Every religious entity has social justice, so we can create a group, larger group, and fight for different causes. Or what we created there, which is the garden. I don't know, you have not worked in the garden.
I've seen the fruit come out of the garden.
Yeah, wonderful. That fruit is distributed to groups of people that are deprived of food. And so it's an amazing, very interesting work, constantly not only spreading mulch, but actually picking up and sweating. I think the sweating of the people next to each other, that's what creates unity that is beyond all religious borders.
The sweating of people working next to each other
Yeah, totally.
creates bonds.
Yeah.
That's
Because
beautiful.
that's why it succeeded. And it's still also people that, like Wendy Goldberg, that is the director of the enterprise. Those are people that are hooked already.
Yeah. Well, I was going to ask you, you mentioned Bob. Who all was involved in those earliest conversations?
Patrick McNamara.
Patrick McNamara? Okay.
And members of the board of Temple. It was new for the idea of bonding with Muslims and Christians. At the end, what we have now on the ground is a Muslim mosque, a church, countryside church,
Right.
and Temple Israel. And we constantly are coming up with programs that bring the people of the three faith communities together. And I think it's something that the people of Omaha are proud of. They see it as part of the city we have, and they're very proud of it.
So when I first met you, that was probably right after 9/11, not too far after. And I remember it was a few years later that you described the Tri-Faith Initiative Project in your office there in the older Temple Israel.
On Cass Street.
On Cass Street. And the big objective at that stage was to co-locate. And with a lot of work, a lot of fundraising, a lot of discussion with your partners, both the Muslim partners and the Christian partners, eventually that succeeded. There's Countryside Community Church, the American Muslim Institute, and Temple Israel, all sharing a piece of property.
And a fourth building, which is
And the
the
fourth
welcoming place.
The Tri-Faith Initiative building itself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Which was left for the end.
So the project of co-locating 3 different worshiping communities, along with a fourth entity, a nonprofit organization, was largely complete about, 7 or 8 years ago?
Exactly.
And what was your vision beyond co-location?
Oh, I wanted to continue doing what McDonald's does.
McDonald's.
creating tri-faith communities in every place in America.
Oh, okay.
We are the only place in the world that is like this. I mean, there are other places in Europe where they get a building and they allow different religions to practice there.
Mm-hmm.
But co-locating with the intention of creating something unique did not happen.
And I've asked around, and as far as I can tell, it still is unique in that it's 3 different worshiping communities, each with their own building on the same campus, but not in an effort for one to overwhelm the other, not in an effort for one to convert the other, but simply to live together.
Live together and hopefully life that is righteous.
And hopefully the life that is righteous.
And I think that's what we are witnessing from watching our neighbors. It's amazing. It's amazing what you can learn from living next to each other. And there were some difficulties in the beginning from neighbors that didn't want this and try to change the zoning. But we succeeded. We are here.
Yeah.
And we are here to stay.
You've been part of the Tri-Faith Initiative from the beginning, from its first conception on 9/11, in a sense. And presumably working with and living with members of other religious communities should be a learning and growing experience. So I am curious, what do you feel like you've learned out of that process of the last 20 years of learning how to collaborate more closely with members of other religious communities?
That other people have religious dreams and religious values. And when they open themselves like a book, you can read their struggles, their fights, their wars, and their success. And I think when you have religious neighbors that you are paying attention to, you're constantly working with them, you learn a lot from other people's lives. All of them are also created in God's image. That's huge. And we found a way to commemorate September 11 in those three communities. And it's a lot more meaningful than what Americans do sometimes. Watch again and again people dropping from the buildings and dying. We found a way to understand this because of the people who are involved and their stories and their struggles and their being accepted or being rejected. You can learn a lot from individuals that actually have a life, religious life, that is never smooth and nice into the sunset, but struggles and finding an answer, religious answer. I think this country needs to have more of those tri-faith, or you can join, other faith can join, and maybe this will lead to a better life here, a life of understanding.
And this opens up the theme of the conference that will be held in a few weeks in Jerusalem and Bethlehem. And the theme of the conference is religious renewal in times of crisis. And part of our understanding is that religions can renew themselves in all sorts of ways, sometimes very pacific and very ecumenical, very interfaith oriented, and sometimes by closing doors. And we, together over the decades that we've known each other and not known each other, have seen different forms of religious renewal emerging now increasingly in the 21st century. And this opens up an uncomfortable conversation around how religion can be, we're talking about the Tri-Faith Initiative and the effort to co-locate, collaborate, that is work together, get to know each other better, and improve relations between members of different religious communities. But the trend of the world isn't always going that way. And I'm curious about your reflections about what you've seen in terms of religious renewal in the last 20 years, last 40 years or more.
I love going against the grain. I think that's where it has to start.
Okay, talk to me.
Well, you need to have those conversations, not at some, I think those places that were selected to talk about this are perfect places, both Jerusalem and Bethlehem.
Mm.
Bethlehem, the house of bread. I mean, that's where the bread is. By breaking bread, that's what can start a whole movement appearing. So what did I learn about that? That it's a necessity to go this way. It's a calling of, because of the difficulty, because of the differences, because of the challenges, this is the only path available for us, to go against the grain and do the impossible things. And the most impossible things is the state of Israel. The conference has a good topic in the right place. And if it doesn't start there, and people don't come with ideas, sometimes painful ideas, then where else are you going to do it? So this topic is the right topic to talk about. And I'm sure you collected speakers and people that can share their views and their past. Because all the people in the Hartman Institute, for example, which I attended every summer for at least 14 summers, are made of this kind of stuff.
Tell us a little more about the Shalom Hartman Institute and your experience with it.
It was incredible. Although it was for 2 weeks in the summer, the connection between the Hartman Institute and the students, rabbinic students, they were all rabbis, for 2 weeks, intense text study, and also being able to learn from other rabbis. When you have a group of people that have one interest and they would like to improve that interest, then you will succeed because all of them are opening themselves regardless of their reaction. So the grain needs to be watered. In order for the grain to survive, they need to have it in, and they all have it there. It's a wonderful institution. And for the last 2 years, I have not gone, and I miss it a lot.
Would you like to send greetings to your friends at Shalom Hartman Institute?
Absolutely.
In this recording.
Chizku v'imtzu. Get strength and courage and continue doing the holy work that you're doing.
And this conference will continue beyond Jerusalem to include 2 days in Bethlehem at Bethlehem University. And would you like to extend greetings to the scholars and participants in the conference in Bethlehem?
To the scholars and the participants in the convention in Bethlehem, all the best. I'll miss it. It's hard to think about not being part of it. But thank you for the opportunity to have this interview.
Well, you will be present through this video, and you will be missed for sure. Because of all the people I can think of, you are the one that I would have most wanted to meet with in Jerusalem and Bethlehem at this conference.
Inshallah.
Inshallah.
One day.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you to all of you, and thank you for the opportunities to express myself.